Hello, and welcome to the 3rd annual Words in Time Awards, where I dress my best in order to share the best sci-fi books I read this year. Am I wearing pants? Yes, probably. Now, I read over 50 sci-fi books this year, 51 to be specific, and these are my 10 favorites. Sci-fi is the best fi, and here are the best of the best fi, starting with number 10, The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch by Philip K. Dick. The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch combines a lot of my favorite elements of Philip K. Dick's writing. It's surreal, it's trippy, it's funny, and it's philosophical. The book's focus is on the ideas, but I also enjoyed the story and the characters. Who is this mysterious Palmer Eldritch? And what is this strange drug that can supposedly bring its users closer to God? At times, what is real or not real isn't entirely clear, but what anchors the reading experience is these mysteries and the bigger questions behind the narrative. I've read 5 Philip K. Dick books so far, and as of now, this is narrowly behind Ubik as my second favorite PKD book, and was my 10th favorite read of 2023. I look forward to reading more PKD books, and I'll be continuing soon with Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said. Number 9, Dying Inside by Robert Silverberg. Dying Inside is at the softer end of the sci-fi spectrum. It follows a man, David, with the power of telepathy. Unfortunately for David, this power is fading, and he never really put it to good use. David is neurotic and selfish, and while I didn't relate to him as a character, the themes of the loss of time and the loss of self are universal. As David uses or fails to use his powers, it serves as a reminder to us of the gifts or opportunities that we may have squandered through our own acts or inability to act. It's a rather bleak story, but it's one that I found to be poetic and poignant. This is the only book I've read from Robert Silverberg so far, but I do own a copy of Nightwings, so I'm excited to get to that one next. And just before we get to our next book, at the end of the video, I'll be spinning the Quantum Wheel in order to find out the patron pick for the month of January, so stick around for that. Number 8, Blindsight by Peter Watts. Blindsight is hard sci-fi meets First Contact meets cosmic horror. It follows a space mission with a character with half a brain, robot soldiers, a character with multiple personalities, and of course, a vampire. But this book isn't a swashbuckling space adventure, it's an adventure into the layers of intelligence and the nature of consciousness. I'll be honest, I found this to be a little bit of a tough read, as the book does not hold your hand and the world building is complex. But with around 150 pages to go, everything started to click into place, and I just could not stop turning the pages or the wheels from spinning in my mind. I highly recommend this for anyone looking for a book with lasting ideas and doesn't need a good sleep anytime soon. I also own Peter Watts' Starfish, and I'm excited to dive into that one very soon. Number 7, The Children of Men by P.D. James. You may be familiar with this story from the film adaptation by Alfonso Cuarón. In the future, humanity has become infertile, so how does society function when it has no future? The film is visually remarkable and narratively thrilling, so when viewers pick up the book, they might be surprised by its introspective style and pacing that plods along. The prose in this book is as cold as the dystopian future, but the beautiful moments of poetry offer readers just a glimmer of hope, and that's exactly what the characters in this story are looking for in order to find a reason to survive. The book was written in the 1990s, but the author was in her 70s when she wrote it, so it combines some modern elements with a classic feel, and I think it deserves to be discussed alongside some of the definitive works in this subgenre. Number 6, Ring by Stephen Baxter. Wormholes, time travel, the fate of the universe. What more do you want in a hard sci-fi space opera? This book is incredibly ambitious. For starters, the story takes place over millions of years. And if that only partially boggles the mind, Baxter achieves full boggle with his description of dark matter, cosmic strings, and time dilation. The way this book jumps from one jaw-dropping story idea to the next is an incredibly fun reading experience. It does rely a little bit on exposition, but the high points are just phenomenal. Ring is the 4th book in the Zeely sequence, but it can be read as a standalone. If you're looking for a hard sci-fi space opera, it doesn't get much bigger, better, or harder than Ring. And just before we get to our next book, I wanted to thank all of you for subscribing to the channel. Sorry, my producers are telling me that only 38% of you are subscribed. You know what, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would really help me look good in front of the producers at the post-show meeting. Number 5, More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. More Than Human tells the tale of a group of characters that have a mix of disabilities as well as supernatural abilities. It's a character-driven story that focuses on their evolution, but is also layered with ideas to do with the evolution of humanity. The book is told in 3 parts, and often books that use that kind of structure can end up feeling a little disjointed to me. But I thought that Sturgeon weaved all of the independent parts together brilliantly. I thought the themes to do with the feeling of loneliness and the desire to feel whole were touching, and Sturgeon delivered them on the page in a moving way. This is the only book I've read from Sturgeon, but I loved it, so you guys have to tell me what you think I should read from him next. Number 4, Redemption Ark by Alistair Reynolds. Redemption Ark is the sequel to Revelation Space. Hundreds of years in the future, humans find the remains of an alien civilization. What happened to them, and is that a mystery best left unsolved? I think this is one of the quintessential space operas. The culture and conflicts are layered, the action is thrilling, and the concepts are imaginative. I also connected with the characters and the themes. I thought the arcs developed in a way that was both narratively satisfying and personally rewarding. This was my favorite book in the original Revelation Space trilogy, and I'd put it right up there with House of Suns as my favorite Reynolds book. Number 3, The Quantum Thief by Hannu Rajaniemi. The Quantum Thief is the first book in the Jean Laflambeau trilogy, and it is a wild combination of post-singularity cyberpunk, hard sci-fi, and sci-fantasy. This book sat on my shelf for a while because of its intimidating reputation. The world building is complex, and the science is brain-breaking. But it's just so much fun. At the heart of the story, we have a thief trying to pull off a heist, and a detective trying to solve a case. And these familiar tropes ground an ambitious and chaotic narrative. If you can push through the sea of terminology and concepts, the words will start to make sense, the puzzle pieces fall into place, and you can just sit back and enjoy a wild ride. It's very possible that half of you will hate this book, but hopefully the other half of you might just find a top 3 read of the year. Number 2, Solaris by Stanislav Lem. In Solaris, our main character Chris Kelvin travels to an ocean planet. However, when he gets there, he finds a crew plagued by repressed memories. The atmosphere in this book is crafted masterfully, as Lem creates a surreal, mysterious, and eerie setting, and finding out the answers to these mysteries becomes a visceral experience. There's also the fun element of Kelvin trying to decipher what is real, and us the reader trying to make those assessments for ourselves. Lem brilliantly melds together the scientific with the philosophical into a story with a clear and singular thematic goal, one that will remain with me for a long, long time. This is the only Lem book I've read so far, but I'm looking forward to reading the Futurological Congress next. And what's this? Charlie wants to join us to announce the winner of the Golden Charlie. I don't think that's the name of the award. Anyway, the winner is... Good choice. Number 1, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. At the start of the year, this was pretty high on my list of shame, but by the end of it, it finished atop my best reads of the year. There's a reason this story has remained in the public consciousness for over 200 years. Although, it's not quite what I expected. It's not particularly scary, and Frankenstein's monster is not the lumbering, groaning oaf that he's often portrayed to be. In fact, this is an incredibly thoughtful, philosophical, and poetic tale. I deeply connected with the themes involving failure, grief, and regret, and I grew to understand the characters of Dr. Frankenstein and his monsters' sense of despair and desire for revenge. If you haven't read Frankenstein, I hope you give it a try and enjoy it as much as I did. So those were my favorite sci-fi books I read in 2023. Hopefully I've given you some books to add to your TBR, and if you need some help navigating your sci-fi TBR, feel free to join us on Discord, as well as checking out the Patron pick for the month of January, which we'll find out now as we spin the Quantum Wheel. Welcome to the Black Tie edition of the Quantum Wheel, where all of the Patron picks are both simultaneously picked and not picked until we observe a winner. Let's find out what I'll be reading in the month of January. A special awards edition version of the Patron pick, maybe in Australia, maybe non-stop. Will it take over to Flow My Tears? Flow My Tears, the policeman said. Wow, maybe a little ominous. That's not the word I'm looking for. Foreshadowing. Yes, that was the one I was searching for. Earlier in the video, talked about PKD. Said I wanted to read this one soon. The Quantum Wheel has spoken. Will you join me for some PKD in January? Let me know. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider checking out some of the perks of becoming a Patreon member, where you can become one of my robots, androids, or cyborgs, like Nima and New Eden Half-Ogre and the vehicularly challenged Colin, and you can find more sci-fi content over here.